So from your site, you say that Tiny, your documentary, is a story of building a house from scratch, and it explores how we live and find ourselves at home, our relationship and identities with our home. So if we gain a sense of identity from where we live, why do you think in most people's minds they equate bigger as better? What is this, Cadillac Escalades, Humvees? We somehow think that bigger's better, and does it equate to more self-esteem, or we feel more powerful?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also probably a product of, just advertising and media, in our country over the past 50 years, really trying to sell us the idea that, why wouldn't you want to have more if you can, and without necessarily thinking of what the impacts of that would be either on your own bank account or on the environment or things like that. So, I mean, I think that, that we've really kind of been sold this idea for a long time, and it's really kind of ingrained, in our psyches, And I think, I mean, part of, we've been looking a little bit at sort of, the tiny house as a phenomenon in America, because America does have this particular history and this particular relationship with, size, and we have the room to expand, and so that's kind of been a part of the American psychology, whereas, in other countries, who don't have, the space to expand, it's not as much a part of the culture.
Yeah, I think it's very cultural. I mentioned the American Dream earlier. We've been talking about it, and there's this concept of, you can. I think it's sort of inherent to a capitalistic society, without getting too political or anything, but just that. There's always going to be this sort of competition, for selling things, for doing things bigger and better, and I think you tie that in with the American Dream, this concept that anybody can be successful, that you want to show that you have been successful, or at least in the past, and this is actually nothing new. We filmed at Walden Ponds, and we've sort of looked at the Thoreau story a bit and tied that in our film, and he was actually, when he went out and lived by Walden Pond and wrote Walden, he was reacting to something very similar in his day, where people tended to have these really large country cottages, and so he sort of in protest of that, and he went and he built a really small cabin and lived in it full time with his own hands, and so this isn't a new concept, and it's also not, the tiny house isn't a new reaction to that, and it's sort of interesting. It's, we have a proud tradition of capitalism, and sort of in living these like big houses. We have a proud tradition of people, sort of denying that and choosing to do something different. So
yeah, I think that, going with the sort of Thoreau history, and what Thoreau did was really kind of whittle things down into this little space to kind of have the perspective to really, view his life maybe from a different lens. And I think the tiny house movement is really similar, and what we're not necessarily saying that everyone should be sort of like packing themselves into the smallest space possible. I think people need to be comfortable, and people have that right to be comfortable, and they have the right to decide what that means for themselves. But it's really kind of looking at this as an option for just having a different perspective on, what's needed, or what gives people a quality of life, and really sort of just taking some time to reevaluate that and make sure that, the path that we're on is the path that's actually gonna make us happy.
Yeah, I like to say that it's sort of a reductionist approach to discovering what's necessary in a home. So it's when you take a house or a home and you strip it down to its barest form, and if it still feels like a home, you can analyze that sort of and say, okay, well, this is what's necessary, So then as you build up from there, you can choose things that enhance the quality of life, and you can leave things that don't, and so it's really a distillation of home.